Okay, good morning, everybody. I am sitting down here with my cup of coffee, and we're gonna unbox this little package that I got from our friends at Tough Pack e-commerce packaging. That's actually not who it's from, obviously, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a surprise. Oh, look at that. This is the Sega Master System Visual Compendium from Bitmap Books. This thing has had kind of an interesting story in getting to all the backers of this. I backed it on Kickstarter. I got a little Alex kid reading the compendium. For those that don't know, these books, I don't remember when I kickstarted it. It was a while back, but they were done, and they were in the warehouse. And the warehouse that they were in caught on fire, and all the books burned. So they had to like reprint it. Luckily, it wasn't a total loss. I mean, it was a total loss of these, but they had to reprint it. So it's taken a while to get here, but it looks like it was worth it. We got a little bookmark. It's kind of like the label on Master System games. So I thought we'd just kind of look through this and, in a fairly quick manner, maybe I can reminisce about some of the games that are featured in here. Because as you know, as I've said a billion times on this channel, probably so much so that people are annoyed by it at this point, but I grew up with a Master System. I love the system a lot, and this would be a cool way to kind of page through it and talk about some of the games, I guess. I mean, the book is super thick, and I don't have that much time. But I think it's got a little lenticular cover. I don't know how well that comes across on video. But we got Alex Kidd and BMX. We got Bonanza Brothers, Columns, Sonic, Enduro Racer, Fantasy Zone Golden Axe, Hang On. I don't know what that is. Shinobi, Kung Fu Kid. I don't know what the hell it is. Maybe that's Lord of the Sword, I'm guessing. The monkey is... I don't know what the monkey is. Looks like Shadow Dancer. I'm not sure what that is. Fantasy Star, obviously. Quartet. Sonic. Psycho Fox. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's probably tennis. Probably great tennis or whatever it is. And it's probably great soccer or volleyball. Yeah, it wouldn't be using his hands if it was soccer. I think that's his name. Is that Wanted? Or no? I don't know what that is. It's like the maybe it's Shooting Gallery. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's probably as an X, obviously XYZ, because I don't know what the Y is, but maybe I don't know what it is. But then of course we got Zillion right here. So let's take it out of the slipcover, shall we? Let's slip this off. There we go. So it's the version without the lenticular cover here. This is actually the first one of these books, though, that I've kickstarted. I have another one, but this is the first one I actually have gone ahead and backed right off the bat. Let's see, a little history of the console here. Let's see if I can center this up. A little history of the console. And here's all the games in here. Let's see if there's any familiar names in here. See our friend Ken Horowitz from Sega 16. I've known Ken actually not really, not for a long time, but we were both part of the same forum for a very long time. And so we knew each other that way, but we didn't talk like a ton. But I talk to him now more than I did then. Although I guess that forum is not around, but it is more of it on Discord. I don't know if he's part of that Discord. We got our friend Greg Seward here, games journalist. Nice. All right, let's dig in. I guess acknowledgements. Forward by Marc Cerny. That's a great image of him. Sega Mark III. Look at this. These photographs are great. I'll have to read through this. We got some schematics. Like space here, 3D. Probably says 3D off, so I probably talked about the 3D here. Oh, Japanese. It's the Japanese Master System startup animation. I did not know I had a different startup animation. Of course, you have the Master System here. Oh, that's great. It's the label. Like this is very, very 80s, I think. Having the whole flow chart of how it works. Yeah, keep an eye on my time because I gotta leave in a little bit here. Oh, we got the Sega My Card. All right, in the Mark III, obviously. These are great images, great photographs. We start with Hang On. Yeah, this was the first game I played on the system because it was the pack-in. I got mine with Hang On and Safari Hunt, and my friend Eric got his with Hang On and Astro Warrior. I like Astro Warrior a lot. I have a standalone cartridge of Astro Warrior Transbot, aka Astro Flash. This game is actually kind of expensive these days. I recently saw it at the Cincy Classic, and it's like $30. But it seems like it might be the most complex card game. Astro Flash. So okay, the ship in this game was later used in Sega's Aero Flash, which actually makes a ton of sense. Teddy Boy. This is the only card game that I owned when I was a kid. I do not own it now, but I should really hunt it down. I remember being kind of disappointed. It looked pretty cool in screenshots, but I was kind of disappointed that it's just a fairly simple game. Fushigi no Shiro Pit Pot. I don't know, I've never played it. Oh, Action Fighter. Action Fighter was the Genesis version of Spy Hunter. They were trying to capitalize on that. I think it's a better game than Spy Hunter. Maybe it's not. I thought it was at the time, at least, but maybe not so much now. But I think it's pretty cool. You have the motorcycle. You start on the motorcycle, and later on you become a car, and then later on that car gets wings on it, and you fly, and it turns into a shooter, more so than this one. Like when you're on the ground, you can speed up and slow down. Steve Hanawa. I'm not sure who that is. I'm gonna have to read through some of these though. These pages stick together a little bit, or maybe not. Was that like a fold out? It is a fold out. That's why. Look at that. Oh, jeez. Let me. Look at that. That is incredible. Love that kind of stuff. Alex Kidd: A Miracle World, obviously. An amazing, amazing game. One of the best games on the system. Pretty difficult, especially on that last level. I need to do a video on Alex Kidd. Maybe the best way to play Alex Kidd. The Alex Kidd series. Oh, Hakuto no Ken, or Black Belt, as I know it. I like Black Belt a lot. Of course, they totally redid the game. All the levels, and I mean, the gameplay is the same. But all the graphics were changed for the US. I love how the characters explode every time you punch them. I mean, obviously that's the Fist of the North Star way. But I don't know, the effect in this game is really cool. Choplifter. Choplifter is a game that I think is very, very good on this system. It has really cool parallax scrolling on the ground. But it's I didn't own it until fairly the last few years. My friend, a lot of the games that we'll see in here were owned by my friend Eric, who he was the kid that, his dad was also very into video games, so they ended up with a lot more than I did. A lot of the games he got, but I didn't get. And I think that I probably had more of a connection to the games that I played though than he did at the time. But I know that Joe Redifer from GameStack really likes Choplifter a lot. Love the music, like the bump ba da, how every level starts out. But it's a very good game. There's Fantasy Zone on the Mark III cartridge. I love how Mark III cartridges look. They just have this big label art. I have several Mark III cartridges just because I think the label art is so cool. Comical Machine, aka Gun Joe. I do not know this game. It's a Japanese game. And of course we have Fantasy Zone. I like Fantasy Zone. I like all the Fantasy Zone games quite a lot right now, or these days, but back then, I'm not sure if I'm going to get over if Fantasy Zone 2 is going to be next. It's not going to be next. Fantasy Zone 2, though, was the only one that I bought, and I was kind of disappointed. I was not expecting something more like Defender. I don't know, it's a cool game. It's a cool game, that's for sure. But at the time, I would remember getting it. Every year, I'd go for spring break to my grandparents in Florida, and then I would go and get one game when I was down there. I would save my money, and I would get one game when I was down there. And the first year I ever went down there, I got Wonder Boy. And the second year, I got Lord of the Sword. And then the third year, I kind of went backwards a little bit and got Fantasy Zone 2 and was really disappointed by it. Ghost House. Ghost House is another card game. Didn't own it, but it's another game that I did want to get now. It seems like something I'd like a lot more. The Ninja. The Ninja is a game that my friend Eric had. I liked it a lot. It's I actually just got my own copy of this 2 days ago for $10 at Cincy Classic. Man, it is a tough game. But I bet you I could. Maybe it's something that could be a project. Like maybe I could beat it sometime. Very good game though. Oh, and here's another shot from it. Really good game. It's tough though. And of course, here's Mitsuhiro Fuji is another interview. Obviously involved with the creation of Fantasy Zone, Space Harrier, and Master System Bank Panic. Oh, the paddle controller. Never owned a paddle controller. Pro Wrestling. I never owned the Pro Wrestling, but of course, everyone knows the cover art because the cover art for Pro Wrestling is so silly. Oh, but here we are. This, Rambo First Blood Part 2, or Azura, or as it's called in Japan, and Secret Command in the US, is absolutely one of the best games on the system. It might be a little bit slow for some people. You know, the movement is it moves a little slow, but it is really fun. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's kind of it's Sega's answer to Commando. I think it's a much better game than Commando, despite being slower than Commando. Oh, and Snail Maze. Snail Maze was the hidden game in the Master System. You had to boot it up without a game in it, and then you could, what is the, yep, I don't remember what the button combination was, like down and A or something like that. I remember reading about it in a magazine and being like, oh my gosh, I have a whole other game that I've never played. I mean, obviously, there's not a lot to it. But it was cool, being hidden in there. Safari Hunt. Safari Hunt, I got my Sega Light Phaser with my Master System. And I think it's a pretty good game. I think that Gangster Town is a much better light gun game for numerous reasons. Space Harrier. This is the game. This is the game that made me fall in love with games. And I got a Master System specifically because of Space Harrier. This is the reason that I went with the Master System, and because I love Space Harrier so much in the arcade. And when I got my system, I got this game with it. In general, it's probably, in reality, probably my favorite game of all time. Not the Master System version, but Space Harrier in general is my favorite game. I talked about my most important game, and I said Phantasy Star is, which is absolutely true. But this would be a very close tie with that, I think. Spy versus Spy. Not a huge fan of Spy versus Spy. I mainly played this on the Commodore 64. It was I I had a friend who had Spy vs. Spy on the Master System, but we just didn't play very much. I'd much rather play it on the Commodore, which I remember playing at school for some reason. Super Tennis or Great Tennis. I didn't own any of the sports games, and I don't know. I'm not I'm not too broken up about it. World Grand Prix. I never played this either, to be honest. Oh, but here we go. Here's Astro Warrior. Amazing, amazing game. Really good shooter. Maybe the first vertically scrolling shooter that I can remember really ever playing. Never finished it, but it's it's a lot of fun. Maybe I wonder if I could beat it now. I should really make it a big point to try to beat all of these Master System games that I'd always viewed as too hard, because Master System games very rarely had continues, or you had to put in like a directional. You had to hold a direction and press a button on the game over screen to be able to continue. That code is usually hidden in the manual, but really great game. Afterburner. Oh, the first Afterburner. I gotta admit, like, after Space Harrier, loving Space Harrier so much, I love the arcade version of Afterburner, and I was pretty disappointed in this version when I got it. I remember getting this cartridge at a Woolworths in the mall growing up. There was a Woolworths, and there was a kind of a diner attached to the Woolworths, which I think was a thing with all Woolworths. They had like a diner type, like a whatever it is, like greasy spoon, I guess is the term for it. But I remember getting this game, talking to my mom into buying Afterburner for me, and we went over to the Woolworths greasy spoon and ate, and then went home and I played it, and I always loved in the arcade version, like all the trails of smoke behind the missiles. And it was kind of a letdown to me because the missiles just kind of go at the bottom of the plane, and it really didn't have that sense of speed. Although this was my first experience with the melody version of the music, which I think is better than the arcade version. I just like the melody overall. There it is. Master System Power Base. Interestingly, you can see like this like kind of pattern through the red there. Another soccer game, not something that I had. Alex Kidd BMX Trials, not something I've ever played either. I may have used it just for some B-roll for an episode before, just like, or some, as we like to call it. All game footage in our episodes we like to call it G-roll. And I never had this. I mean, Alex Kidd was such a weird experience, I guess, because as a fan of the first game, I was just so frustrated they never made another game like the first game until the Genesis. I mean, the character was popular for a reason, and I understand they were probably going for a Mario thing where he just does all this stuff, but at least Mario got regular sequels too. Bank Panic. I don't even know if this game came out in the U.S. Did it? Maybe it was called something else, but I couldn't even tell you what the cover art for this looks like. Enduro Racer. I liked Enduro Racer. I didn't play a lot of driving games either, but I really liked the isometric view of this. I got it for Christmas one year, and I completely finished it that first day, and I didn't play it very much after that, but I do think it's a lot of fun now. I do own it now. Not the same copy I had when I was a kid, but I definitely own it now. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It's like, they needed to make something that was close to maybe to Excitebike, but from that looked better because of the isometric view. Of course, we have Fantasy Zone Tier 2, the Tears of Opa Opa, which I talked about earlier. I think it's a much better game than I thought it was then. Global Defense, or SDI. Yeah, in the U.S. it's called Global Defense. This is another game that my friend Eric had. Kind of a weird control scheme in this. You shoot with one button, and then you have a pointer, or like a crosshair that you move around, but you got to hold down a button. Well, no, you move the crosshair around as you want, and the other button shoots, but then to move your ship, you got to hold down the other button, and you can move your ship that way. The Sega control pad, not a huge fan of it. This is obviously the later version, but the versions I had a little thing you can remove in the center of the controller, and you can put this little thumbstick in there. I never used it. Not a huge fan of this, but I'll be talking about this in our first party controllers episode that I'm brainstorming on right now. I can talk about the different versions of it. Great volleyball. Didn't play it. Kung Fu Kid. This is not a game that I had when I was young, but I always liked how it looked in screenshots, and I kind of get it mixed up in my head with My Hero, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually. I do own this though now. Oh, of course. The iconic. I mean, I've talked about this game way too much. You know how I feel about this game at this point. What a great image, though, that they chose for that. I just like the green and then the dungeons. I mean, looks like they're going to use a lot of different stuff from it. Yeah, and there's, when you first start the game, well, you're actually like over here, I think, in front of Alice's house. Man, what a game. What a game. I've talked about it way too much, so I'm not going to bore you with it. Missile Defense 3D, that was a light gun game. I do own it. And that's something I would like to do, is looking at all the 3D games in the system. Looks like they interviewed Marc Cerny, so I guess he was involved in this one. I'll have to read it, though. Read this interview. It's pretty long here. Missile Defense 3D is the game that I'm using, or that I'm playing in that shot from certain episodes where I'm trying to use the light phaser on the screen, on the HD TV, and it doesn't work. And I turn and I have the 3D glasses on. And I'm like, what? Yeah. More Missile Defense 3D right there. Another one. I always liked how this peninsula looked. And of course the Sega 3D glasses. I still got the Sega Scope 3D glasses. I still have mine with the adapter. I don't know if there's anything I need to change out, like maybe if there's a capacitor issue or anything with it. Of course, Outrun. Outrun is a pretty good game, but I was slightly disappointed with this one as well. I mean, I think out of all the Super Scalar games that I played on the Master System, I think the Space Harrier is the only one that really lived up to my expectations for it. Maybe because I've never saw it in motion. But I mean, it is a good version of the game. Of course, choosing the songs. Always be a Splash Wave guy. I think Splash Wave is without a doubt the best song in the game. Oh, Penguin Land is a game that I never owned, but I do remember the cover for it. Doki Doki Penguin Land. Of course, we got Quartet. Try and I co-op this a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if he liked it that much, but I think it's great. I love the soundtrack in here in this game. We got Damien McFerrin is the games journalist. I would love to. I mean, if there's ever like another compendium that would make sense, I would love to write something for them. It is a fun game. That first level music, one of the greatest first level musics of all time. Of course we got Rocky. Another game that my friend Eric had. I don't know. He really liked the Rocky movies, and I didn't really care too much for him at the time. Entering the Grid by Craig Stevenson. I guess that's where this is from. It just must be, it's just about the technology of the Sega scope. Oh, I guess I can look at these with the included Sega scope, or the included 3D glasses. That's kind of cool. I'll look at those later. Space Harrier 3D. Pretty good soundtrack in this, but it is a massive step down from the previous game. You can play it in 2D, but you gotta play the game in 3D, die, and get a top 10 score, or top 6, I think, and put in your name as a certain thing. I don't remember what the code was, but then you could play it in 2D, which is kind of stupid. Oh, and there we go with missile defense again. There's that big peninsula from outer space this time. Woody Pop is a game that I didn't own. Hang On. Oh, so that's how they could fit two of these on a cartridge, I guess, because Hang On and Safari Hunt were maybe both card games. But I mean, that is a U.S. version, so I guess they sold interest. Excuse me. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. Zaxxon 3D. That's a game that I do have. Oh, Gangster Town. Gangster Town is a great game. I always like shooting the wheels off the cars. I know our friend Joe Redifer is a big fan of Gangster Town. And I own a copy of Gangster Town. Oh, we got another one. Zillion. Definitely one of my top games on the system. Look at that. Oh, that's great. Not a game that's for everybody, though. I always thought that Tri would like this, but he's given a shot. He's like, I don't really care for it. A lot of memorization. It's different every time. You know, you can get the you shoot all these and you get different icons for each of these barrels and each screen, and you put those icons into the computer and it opens up the next door. Really great soundtrack, even though it's like really only 2 songs, I think. Or maybe it's not. Maybe as you get... I need to replay it, I guess. I've never finished this game. I've made it to the escape sequence and never made it out. You go very deep into this, into the fortress, and by the time that, when you beat it, you gotta put in the self-destruct code and get out. But it's, you know, it's very Metroid-esque in that it's a big maze. Speaking of maze, we got Maze Hunter 3D. Oh, we got an interview with Rieko Kodama. We'll have to take a look at that. See, doing like a video or anything like specifically on Rieko Kodama and getting to interview her is like a dream project that I'm not sure if there's much else that could compare to that. And really, that's like, if I got to do that, is the only other way I'd ever do a video that heavily features Phantasy Star. Oh, and she worked on Alex Kidd, of course, as well. So there's more of a pretty long interview, as it should be. You got Miracle Warriors down here. Rambo 3. Rambo 3 was a light gun game. It was not... I didn't think it was that great, especially after how much I liked Rambo 2, which Rambo 2 obviously wasn't really a Rambo game. And this was kind of built up as an actual Rambo game. This is this big disappointment right here. Alex Kidd: The Lost Stars. I realize it's based on an arcade game, but after how much I liked Miracle World and I got this for Christmas, and I was so let down by it. I mean, I beat it like maybe the first time I played it. Not a great game. I can maybe appreciate it a little bit more now, if only for the stupid jumping animation and the sunglass guys that shoot the stuff out of their butts. Oh, Considon. I've always said Considon. It's probably Considon. This game is tough as nails. This is another a game that my friend Eric had. I never made it very far, but maybe, I wonder if I could do it now. Vigilante. This is a... I remember seeing screenshots of the TurboGrafx 16 version and saying like, wow, that looks so much better than my version on the Master System. Apologize for the construction sound out there. Alien Syndrome. This is another game that Eric had, and I mean it's okay. The arcade version is pretty good, but I mean the home version didn't really do too much for me. I do have it now though. Then we got Zillion 2. Zillion 2 was a big disappointment for me. I think I talked about this in one of our earliest videos on the channel where I talked about getting it for Christmas and thinking it was going to be like the first game, which I really liked. And it's more of a, you know, it's a shooter. And then every other level is more of a run and gun. And I was so disappointed at the time, but I feel like it's I like it a lot more now. And I think I could beat it now because I played pretty far into it. Never beat it back then, but see, that's what Randy Nelson here says. Some lamented the sequel's less tactical gameplay, but fans of the faster-paced action titles like myself found it to be one of the best-looking and playing titles on the Master System. Yeah, it was... Zillion 2 is like the Metal Gear Rising of the duology. Much more action-heavy and linear. Yep. Disappointment at the time. Fantasy Zone: The Maze, I never played it. The only time I've really played it is on the M2 collection, on the PS2. And Miracle Warriors. Miracle Warriors was the Miracle Warriors. Was the RPG that I tried to follow up Phantasy Star with, and I wonder if I'd like it more now, but at the time I was like, oh, I don't really like this that much. It kind of has this first-person worldview, which was kind of later used in Sword of Vermilion. This is a game that I didn't know it came with a map, so I looked for it at conventions, and I always try to get the version with the map. I've been looking for the version with a map, that is. Aztec Adventure is a game I never played as a kid, but I bought it fairly in recent years. I use it in episodes here and there. Don't really have a lot of experience with it, though. Arcade conversions. Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. This is great artwork. That'd be like a great something to frame if it was bigger. I got Outrun. I assume that's Zaxxon, Space Harrier, of course. I wonder if that's supposed to be Golden Axe, Afterburner, Altered Beast. Maybe Shinobi? Or Thunderblade, maybe? No, it's not Thunderblade. I think that this might be Shinobi. Maybe? I got Golden Axe right here. Golden Axe came out after I had already moved on to the Genesis. It's a very choppy game. Of course, Fantasy Zone. Blade Eagle 3D. I think this is maybe the most expensive 3D game that's out there. Oh, the control stick. The control stick is something I chose to get as a second controller. Man, what a mistake. I mean, it is... I mean, look at it. You control with your right hand and you press the buttons with your left hand, which is not what I wanted to do ever. Or most right-handed people did not want to play that way. You know, it says right here, this is actually how many early arcade cabinets were configured in the 70s and 80s. Obviously, it was going for an arcade-style feel. But, man, I still have mine, and what a mistake it was to get it. I will never use it. I mean, that's another thing I can talk about in the first-party controllers. Captain Silver is a game that I did not play at all until recent years. I somehow have the Japanese version of this as well. How much time do I got? I'm just going to go right to the bookmark, and then maybe I'll split this up because this is almost 40 minutes long. Cyborg Hunter, a game that I did not play when it came out either. Don't have a lot to offer on that. Double Dragon. Double Dragon was, you could send in, you could send something in and I got it for free. I remember one day, you know, it took months and months and months for it to show up. But I think it's a decent version. I mean, considering that for a lot of people, I think the NES version was a disappointment because it was so different from the arcade. So this one tries to stay as close to the arcade as possible. And as a Sega kid, I was like, oh, it's so much better. But in retrospect, it is not. It is not a better game. But at least you could play two-player, which was a big thing, you know. It was... I think that was something that happened on Nintendo systems more than people realize. You know, I specifically remember it happening here, and obviously with Final Fight... Oh. I don't know what that was out there. So, of course, they had to really play up that, okay, ours is going to be two-player, like the arcade version, because that's how fans want to play it. John Sauer. I worked for Tonka Games. Interesting. I have to read that as well. Oh, we got Sega Visions magazine right here. I have a couple of issues of Sega Visions. I mean, I would love to get one of these. I remember seeing that's where I first saw a screenshot of Sonic 2. was in Sega Visions. Galactic Protector. I can't tell you anything about it. Gee, there's construction going on outside. That's why there's that noise. Of course, Lord of the Sword. Looks like we'll kind of end this video on Lord of the Sword because I think that the halfway point is on the next. It's on the next page. Lord of the Sword is a very good game. You know, as I said, I got this one in Florida and came back with it. You know, one button uses your sword, the other button uses your bow and arrow. And this is unfortunately an up to jump game, which I hate. But it's a pretty cool game regardless. Oh, no, I guess we'll finish here. Is Golvelius, the Valley of Doom, a compile game, or as some people think I should say it, is compile, which is, you know, you're compiling the data. Really good game, you know, obviously going after the Zelda crowd, but it, you know, it came out on the MSX2 as well. But I always, you know, you got the snake here that almost looks like something out of a Wonder Boy game. So yeah, I think that's where we'll call it. I mean, we looked through the first 200 pages already, so maybe I'll do the rest another time. Anyways, thanks for watching.